each area. So you tap out, you have all your tools there at the ready. Just drag the box right into the game, and then tap it back in, and I can go about playing again. And we've added small collectibles to progress gameplay and kind of show the player. I'm trying to catch it, it's a little hard. And we have like motion blur to show that an object was in motion when you caught it. Originally, we knew we wanted almost everything that can be caught in a reticule to be capturable, and we've pretty much stayed true to that. But then there are some like wonky instances like that patch of ground back there. So we've been playing around with different effects to show the character, or show the player that an object is photogenic, and we tried to make it really subtle, so having a box show up, we put like a blending layer over top of certain photogenic objects, like in this one it gets a little lighter, but that effect changes daily. We have all sorts of layers to show parallax. It's really easy and really slick. Dave, our programmer, has done an amazing job with our editor. Every game object has a text file associated with it, and what we call a Go file. And then in each Go file, we can attach different gibs or different properties of that game object. So pretty much everything has a texture gib, which is what you actually see in the game. And then certain things have physics gibs, sound gibs. Like that bomb actually just received its sound gib like yesterday. When I was preparing this video, the sound scared the crap out of me because I was not expecting it. Then certain objects have an animation jib, like there's the good old elephant making his comeback. And script jibs, just in case something has a unique instance of that game object. And we've actually streamlined the entire pipeline from Photoshop. So we have an exporter specifically programmed inside Photoshop so that we can apply all those gibs inside Photoshop and then hit one button and it's in the game like 10 seconds later. So yeah, I didn't even realize I had stopped playing. So I guess, at the beginning I talked about restricted design, and the lessons kind of learned from this entire process over the past 2 years is that those restrictions that we had when we were students were incredibly important, and it was, looking back on it, it was one of the only reasons that we managed to get into the IGF. If we had gone into making that prototype with the same mentality that we started the full version with, then it would not have had the same conciseness that the prototype did. We had very simple goals, and we achieved those goals, and we didn't worry about anything else. And that's kind of where we're at now. Is we've made that chart that I showed you. We've filled it out. We know exactly what we need to do and what we have left to do, and that's what we're going to do. We're not going to worry about anything else. And it's incredibly important. And everyone always says keep it simple, stupid. And I almost didn't even want to say it because you hear it all the time. But it's super important to keep it simple. And I tell students all the time, don't even worry about 3D. Just think about 2D. Worry about 2D right now. Unity has kind of made that a little bit easier in the past couple of years since it's free now and stuff. Don't worry about making the next big Halo, think about making a small game, know exactly what you want to get out of it, and work towards just that. And you know, we were preaching it, but we weren't even following it for the first like year of our development, and we had to step back and we were like, oh my god, we have to simplify this a lot. And it was a little depressing to get rid of a couple of years of work, but it has been totally worth it to keep it simple. So I don't know if anybody had any other questions. My contact information. Yes.
So you talked about, I guess what I'm wondering, after you rebooted the game's design, you had this new process. Did you come up with like a discrete milestone or a prototype or a vertical slice to create to see if your new process was working better? Or did you just charge forward and it always worked, so you kept going?
Sure. So the question was, the second time around, did we work towards a vertical slice, or have we not? So the short answer is that we're constantly kind of working on our vertical slice, and we're almost to the point where we're ready to send it out to testers. And that's kind of our vertical slice. We haven't exactly designed the final chapters or anything, and we're working our way from chapter 1 through. But a lot of the objects, like taking a picture of yourself, that's pretty much all in there. But that's not going to appear until later, and major elements like you know, dealing, all the things that have to do with the photo mechanic, those are all in. We wanted to make sure we got those in.
So basically what I'm wondering is, are you setting milestones now so that you don't fall into the trap of having too broad a scope and losing your way? So
and applying to all the different, you know, it was mentioned Indiecade earlier, IGF, you know, the IGC, the Indie Games competition. Those are really awesome milestones to set for yourselves, and because they're not set by you. And if you set a milestone, it's pretty easy to kind of push that back. But if you look at another competition and you say, all right, I need something ready for this, then you're held to it. And
or if you promise to shave your head, right?
Or if you promise to shave your head, right?
Oh shit.
Just to bring it back there.
I can't believe you did that.
Everyone heard it.
It's not shaving
And now it's on camera.
You had this process where you're boiling down all these objects that work well with the photo mechanic, and then could also potentially work well together. Can you talk a little bit how you went from that to actually designing levels that incorporated those things?
Sure. So the question was, after we determined this process of coming up with objects that worked well with the photo mechanic and also worked well with each other, how we came up with levels from that. So if you saw in the middle of those cells, we had pretty specific instances of how those objects interacted in the second chart with the photo mechanic and then the first chart with each other. So we ended up creating these like modular levels where we would illustrate one of those concepts in one specific level. Because it's kind of hard to determine the difficulty of a puzzle just in writing. You know, to us, especially so close to the project, we might think like, oh my god, it's so obvious that you need to take a picture of yourself to, you know, help you push that block or something like that. And then by having that modularity, we can give that piece to someone and figure out how long it takes them to solve it, or if they solve it at all. And then by doing that, we can make adjustments, or we can put that into a category of difficulty. And because it doesn't necessarily have any art attached to it yet, it's making it really easy to move around and adjust where puzzles appear. And short of that, even each chapter, I think I mentioned, has a theme. So the first chapter is all about taking and placing photographs only. You don't have to worry about physics, you don't have to worry about preserving time or anything like that. It's just about moving solid objects, essentially. And then the second chapter is about physics, so that adds a layer of difficulty. So that changes the box from just taking and moving the box to throwing the box into something. And so we're hoping that that kind of dictates the difficulty in itself. Is you're familiar with these objects, you've seen the bomb before, but now you're having to work with the bomb in a new, interesting way. That's harder than it was in the previous chapter. So I hope that answers your question.
So it looks like you guys take tools very seriously with the Photoshop integration. How do you guys arrive at a balance between working on your tool chain and working on the game? And do you feel like you did a good job of that?
That is a good question. I'm not sure if the ratio of tools development to game development is awesome yet. I know that whenever we finish a tool, we're really happy with it, and we feel as though it's saving us a lot of time. Basically, when we're considering spending time to make the tool for Photoshop or to do some repetitive tasks that we don't want to do, we consider obviously the opportunity cost of it, and is the time it takes going to equal the time that it takes? And that's a really easy way to figure out, and if it doesn't, then you might not want to do it. But then there's also this whole other aspect that you can't really measure, and that's the flow of your pipeline. And if you're artists, luckily we're all technical, and so we can handle the entire pipeline ourselves, each of us. But if Kyle, who's doing all the background stuff, if he has to create an object, and then when he's done with it, go into a text editor and write up this file that's associated with that object, and then recompile our object list. These were all things that we used to have to do a long time ago. That's an extra 4 minutes, of work associated with each object. You can add all that up and say, well, save yourself 4 minutes each object, but you're also saving yourself that speed bump where you're leaving Photoshop and you're going into a text editor. And if you can stay in Photoshop and just keep, you're on your roll and you keep making game objects, that saves an immeasurable amount of time. So we try to look at it in that way and look at what processes we're doing over and over and over again, and then see where it is in the pipeline and see how much of a disturbance it is to the rest of the process. Because we really just want it to be, making art and then making levels, and that's it. No time of text. Okay.
So you guys went directly from being students to being a full-person company. So how was your time management when you were going directly from school to making a game? Did you guys crunch a lot, or how did that work out for you guys?
So the question was, we went directly from students to a studio, and how's that worked for us in terms of time management?
Yeah, I guess time management.
We kind of have a unique story where after we graduated, Kyle and I went and did separate things. We were like, awesome, Snapshot was a lot of fun to work on, but I wanted to go to graduate school, and Kyle wanted to continue working on his own indie titles. So it wasn't until IGF kind of pushed us in that direction. I know when we were nominated, I was like, oh, well, maybe the summer after my second semester in grad school, we should work on Snapshot again. And then during IGF, I was like, well, maybe I should quit grad school right now and start working on Snapshot. And that's actually what ended up happening. So we had a very unique situation where in 1 week, everything changed, and that next week, we were all in the same house together. And none of us really had any prior experience. Dave worked at Shining Mountain Entertainment for a year, so he has a little bit of professional experience. But we're kind of just stumbling our way through this.
Did you say a house? You live and work in the same place?
Yep. Yeah, we did live and work in the same
That makes
place.
it sound like you're crunching all the time.